Good morning. Welcome to Enduro360. I'm your host, Chili White. Today we're here to play around with the 390 beta. We had the 430 earlier and we've started testing a 390 now. And one of my complaints on the 430 was the small gas tank, 2-gallon gas tank on these new betas. So the range is pretty limited. So we have acquired a Clarke tank here for our 390. I'm going to walk through and install with you. And you have to forgive me, we're going to use the GoPro today so I can be hands-free while I'm doing the install, so the quality is going to be a little low, but there's a couple important things here you should see that will definitely help you if you want to put a big tank on your new beta. When it comes to big gas tanks, I kind of got the market cornered on them. I got them on every bike in the garage. Not only the ones you see here, but there's a 6-gallon of Cherubies up there. There's a 19-liter Cherubies for the fuel-injected bikes. And we kind of get a little bit spoiled with how well gas tanks fit on the KTMs, because they fit a lot of year models, and particularly when we're using the OEM style tanks, they fit really well. Our Clarke tank here for the beta is, how shall I say, a little more old school. It reminds me of mounting a tank on a gas or something. That is, it doesn't fit great, but it does fit. First of all, there's only one gas tank for the beta. This is the Clarke 3.8 gallon. It is listed in the catalog as being for 2010 to 2012 models. It does actually fit clear up to 2015s, as we will show you today. It's a winged style gas tank. Because the beta is a semi-perimeter frame, it mounts here, of course, to the radiators. There's no center bolt. It has a bolt hole right here, but as you will see, that is for an older style frame and is slightly different than what is required on the newest bikes. First thing we had to do was install a petcock. In this case, you can see I've actually taken a KTM style petcock, a used one that I had, and put right in there. All motorcycle petcocks are more or less the same, so they fit right in. For this one, the original hole that was drilled for the petcock was not quite large enough, so I actually had to work on that some, open that hole up a little bit more. Of course, that means that plastic debris gets inside the gas tank, so I had to rinse that out really well. But other than that, once it's in, it's all fine. One note, on aftermarket gas tanks, you have a couple of bolts here and around here that go into brass fittings in the tank. I like to use, because that's always a potential source of corrosion, and if you freeze a bolt into that brass fitting, you basically ruin the tank. So I like to coat all the bolts with silicone sealant. That not only acts as an adhesive instead of using like blue Loctite, but it's a good corrosion inhibitor, so there's no galvanization between the steel bolt and the brass insert. Okay, that's about it. Clarke stuff. One thing I do like about Clarke tanks is I really like their big fuel caps. They always work well. The little rubber never falls out. It's just a really nice setup. The only other part you have to mount on the bike is the seat post grab right here that comes off your stock tank, and then we're actually ready to go over and start looking at the install. Okay, so I've got the stock tank all loose here. We'll just pull this off. Set that aside. Preparations. First thing you have to do is mount this bracket into the existing hole. This is designed to mount 2 bolts into the tank. As you will see, this bracket does not really fit properly. Again, it was obviously designed for a slightly different frame. Only one of these holes will line up, and then you end up with this thing cockeyed just a little bit, and there's no way that the second hole will line up. But honestly, if you've got 1 bolt, that's probably sufficient. Of course, somebody's out there saying, well, hey, maybe you've got the bracket flipped around the wrong way. I tried it the other way. Nothing lines up when you do that. The other thing that you have to do is the stock radiator guards right here. They actually stick out about this far right here and right here. You have to cut the last piece off of there so none of this sticks out beyond this plane on the radiator. You will see when we put the tank on, it's a little tricky to get it all slid on. It's real prone to catching right here on the radiator and wanting to scratch, so I've just put a couple of pieces of duct tape over there to protect that. If this was a bike I was going to have for a long time, what I often do is I cut a little piece of rubber inner tube square, put a couple of holes through it, and then we're going to zip tie right through there around and just zip tie a little piece of rubber cushioning right on there. We do that on the KTM old style MXC tanks all the time, and that works out really well. Okay, so I've got tank in hand. The petcock's installed. I've put some fuel in it just to make sure it doesn't leak. I always do this test before I put the tank on the bike, because the last thing you want is to have everything installed, start pouring some gas in there and find out you've got a leak and it's spilling all over the floor. When you go to slide this on, at first glance, it appears that the tank is too narrow to go over the radiators it wants to hit. Well, it's just a matter of holding it like this and then giving it a very gentle spread and letting it slide into place. And there you go. So, while a couple of things don't mount up well, one thing that is good is the holes for the radiator bolts are almost perfect in alignment. So here we go. In the rear, need to spread that little piece of the bodywork, get that pushed down on there. Now you will see this right here is actually the hole for the current tank mount. It's that thing right there. This hole that is in the gas tank goes to nowhere, so there is nothing to mount back here. It would be nice to have that extra mount, but honestly, when you look at how most gas tanks are mounted today, I think we've got sufficient grab on this thing that's not going to come off. Okay, we'll start with getting this bolt into place. This bracket, even when it's tight, because it's rubber mounted, moves around nice and freely, so you can get that lined up. Got a little old silicone on there, so it's a little tricky. Let's see. Have to push it to one side just a little bit. Okay, got that one started. No problem. These nice long bolts go right here. These rubber grommets and everything are already in the tank when it comes, so just a little push around there and they start right in. Now, you will see, once we've got the bracket on one side, this bracket is quite a ways out of alignment. No way it's ever going to line up. But that's really basically it. We'll put the other bolt in here, put our breather cap on, breather hose on, and then the seat. What do I do with the seat? Of course, always one of the questions on aftermarket tanks is how well will the seat fit? This one actually goes on pretty darn easy. So there you go. That is 3.8 gallons for your Beta. Once it's on there, it's not bad. You know, obviously there's just some fitment issues that aren't cosmetically as pretty as they should be. We've got radiators kind of hanging out down here. We got kind of a long bit of fuel line just hanging out here. I'd probably want to find some way to protect that a little bit, but access to the radiator cap, nice and good, and no other issues. So we will definitely be using this for our next long-range trip, and it will help us get some more miles on the new 2015 390RR Beta. All right, hey, thanks for tuning in. This is Chili, and we will talk to you soon.